Hi, this is Bob Costas, and you're listening to the ML Sports Platter.
The ML Sports Platter is back with you. Spotify, Google, Apple, Stitcher, Deezer, everywhere you listen to pods on your smartphone device. Make sure you download, subscribe, leave feedback, and a 5-star review. We are part of the Brawl Network, of course, at Mike L Sports on Twitter and at Network Brawl. Shoot a follow over, and of course, be on the lookout for all of my 1-minute videos, my 9-minute with Mike Lindsley videos on all the major platforms like Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and IGTV. We are brought to you by Bryant and Stratton College, Welch & Company Jewelers, our great friends at Empower Federal Credit Union, and Stanley Law Offices. Really appreciate all the sponsorships and keeping this thing floating here, of course. And with Stanley Law Offices, together, they'll work to get you the maximum award. Stanley Law Offices is a proud title sponsor of the ML Sports Platter. Super thrilled to bring onto the program a guy who's doing some awesome work. The editor-in-chief of the Intrepid, covers St. Bonaventure men's basketball. He is also getting set and ready to graduate. He just does a wonderful job. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at RealJUveino. Had to spell it out for you there. Jeff Uveino, welcome in, buddy. It's a treat to have you finally. And hey, Bonaventure playing some great ball right now.
I'm great, Mike. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, we're going to record this here before the next couple of games that Bonaventure plays, and it'll air on a Monday to start the month of March off. Hoping, of course, this year that we do in fact get March Madness and we do in fact get St. Bonaventure in it. We won't talk tons about the next couple of games. I want to talk more about kind of what's gone on and what this team looks like, in the future if they do dance and how things could shape up. What have you been impressed with the most this season, Jeff, with this team?
Well, they're complete at every position. I mean, it's no secret that St. Bonaventure's starting five is as good of a starting five in the Atlantic 10 and can rival a lot of starting lineups in the country, regardless of which conference we're talking about and which programs we're talking about. All five of Bona's starters average over 10 points a game, and they're really dynamic players. And it starts with the guards, with Lofton and Jaron Holmes outside, and it transitions into your bigs, such as Jalen Adway, who hit a huge three-pointer to beat Davidson on the road. Well, go ahead at the end of the game against Davidson that proved to be the game-winning shot, and then Oshunyi inside. Anyone who follows the Bonnies knows how much of a defensive presence he is, and he's averaging over 10 points a game. So they're really just complete. And, a knock on this team this year has been a lack of depth, but as long as they can stay out of foul trouble, that hasn't really hurt them that much up to this point, and I don't think it will going forward.
You know what's crazy? A few years ago, I remember hosting some radio shows, and I used to get people on Twitter and phone calls, and oh man, we got to get Oshunyi. We got to get this guy. What a great recruit. He'd be perfect for the zone, blah, 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 right? So he says no to Syracuse, says no to Georgetown, a couple of others, and he goes to Bona. And then all of a sudden, SU fans were like, he's not that good anyway.
Yeah, I remember when Oshun announced his commitment. It was after my freshman year at Bonas, so I'm 19 years old, and I was put in charge by the head of the Intrepid, which is the student publication I'm affiliated with, of watching this announcement that Oshun was going to get, because I don't know if you remember this or if anyone listening remembers this, but Oshun went to Putnam Science Academy, and so the school had this meeting where he was going to, like a ceremony, I should say, and he was going to announce his commitment. And so it was, as you said, between Syracuse, Georgetown, and St. Bonaventure. And I remember I was playing a beer league softball game that night. I was playing men's softball, but I had to, be interested in and involved in this Putnam Science Academy. It was like an end of the season banquet, and Oshun was announcing his commitment, and I think a couple other players were as well that were maybe going lower Division I or whatever. But he gets up in the podium and he says, St. Bonaventure, I'm playing St. Bonaventure. And so we get it up on social media and it's blowing up big, and it was just a really great moment. And I, of course, didn't realize at the time how much of an impact player he would be. Obviously, he was a good recruit, a 3-star guy, and his other 2 offers were Jim Boeheim and Patrick Ewing, and he chose Bonas, obviously, but he has just been so impactful ever since he got here. And when he came in as a freshman, you could really see the impact that he brought on both ends of the floor, and he's really shored up his defensive game in these last 3 years, him being a junior now. I mean, I don't know exactly how many blocks he averages, but he's one of the best shot blockers in St. Bonaventure history.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he's over 2 a game, this season, and obviously he's a presence in there. And you know what's amazing, Jeff? When I look at this team, they have these flashes of first half in the second game against Davidson. The offense goes nuts. They start hitting some threes. Earlier in the season, there's stretches where they look like they're an unbeatable team. They almost look like they could beat anybody, not in just the A-10, but anybody in the country. And then for 8 or 10 minutes, you're like, hello, where'd you guys go? And then they stop guarding the three-pointer for 4 or 5 straight possessions, and then they have a couple of really bad turnovers. Are you worried at all about that this team does have those lapses where you're just like, where did they go? I mean, do you feel that way sometimes? Where did they go,
Well, we've been watching this group, this core of players for a long time, and I'll tell you when one of those lapses really happened, and that was in the 2019 Atlantic 10 men's basketball championship game against St. Louis. Bonas led by double digits with 8 minutes to go, a chance to go to the tournament, and St. Louis just put them away at the end of that game. And I know that's a little different situation than now, it being a big stage, and this group of juniors was freshmen then, but that was a moment in the end of the game where they really just, I don't know if fell apart is the right way to put it, but they had a big lapse, and they just let the game get away from them. And when we've seen that this year, I thought that it's been more controlled than it has in years past. Now that these guys are juniors and not underclassmen, freshmen, sophomores. But also, I think that experience that they have in the A-10 tournament will help limit those lapses and limit the runs that they give up. I mean, we watched them at Davidson on Wednesday, and Davidson was really getting back in that game. At the end of the game, Bonas stopped hitting its shots. Davidson started making its shots, and they got it uncomfortable, but they found a way to win. And Mark Schmidt said after that game that even though they weren't hitting their shots, and even though their offense wasn't running like it was in the first half, it didn't impact their defense. And that's really the key for St. Bonaventure. If they're not shooting the ball, they just need to play a consistent defensive game, and I think that can really limit those mental lapses that we talk about.
Yeah, they had 14 points, I think, in 17 minutes was the number, but yet, in the end, Davidson gets the ball. I think it was Holmes who had just missed kind of a I don't know how that ball didn't go in, by the way. He chucks it up there, and it kind of does the front rim, back rim, a backboard rollout, and you're like, he makes that, the game's over. And then Davidson gets the ball back down the court. They call TO, and they couldn't get a good look. I mean, Bonaventure clamped down on defense, that unbelievable defensive play to end it here, Jeff. And that's where I go next, is that on defense, perimeter-wise especially, what are they doing? I mean, is it just the switches that are giving teams problems? Is it something else? I mean, these guys on the outside, it seems like the opposition is just having a real hard time trying to figure out how to solve these guys who are kind of like, bees on honey here.
Yeah, well, Schmidt really emphasizes, no open shots, as every college basketball coach does. But, I mean, taking it back to Oshun, it really starts on the inside with him. Davidson had a really tough time getting the ball inside in that Sunday game where Bonham pulled away from them. And now, obviously, in the first game, which is at the Riley Center, the first Davidson game, Bonham shot 82% from three-pointers in the second half. That's gonna win you any game. But as far as defensively, they weren't letting them get the ball inside, and that impacts the shots on the outside. And so I think that Bonaventure's defense really starts on the inside with Oshun and Jalen Attaway, who made a big play at the end of that Davidson game, blocking a three-point attempt by Hyunjung Lee, who had hit some already for them, and he's hit a million of them, it seems like, against Bonaventure the last 3 times that they've played. But it really starts on the inside and then just limiting shots on the outside. Jaron Holmes is a really dynamic defender, as is Kyle Lofton. Lofton held Kellen Grady, Davidson's best player, their leading scorer, and probably a first team all A-10 selection. Lofton held him to 2 points, and that was really impressive. And so these guys, they just swarm the ball, And it's Schmidt's scheme. I think everybody has bought into it, and I feel like that's something that we say every year because he really gets those players to do so. When we see some early season defensive struggles, some stretches where they're giving up open shots, this is the time of year that they really shore that up. And I think that's become a theme over the last few years. At least my time at Bonaventure is this is the time of year that the Bonnies are playing the best.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. They get better. He's an unbelievable coach. He's a great motivator. They seem like the chemistry increases. They seem like they know more about each other on both sides of the floor. There's no doubt about it. We're talking with the editor-in-chief of the Intrepid, the terrific journalist, my man Jeff Uveino, of course, covering St. Bonaventure men's basketball, and get him on Twitter as well. I'll tell you, Schmidt amazes me. I mean, we're so lucky to have him. What he's done there, turning the program around and finding these players, Jeff. How does he find these guys? How does he do it?
I have.
Isn't it unbelievable? It's unbelievable. Yeah,
it is. And I'll tell you what, I haven't been a big recruiting follower of Bonaventure. There's some people who are very big into recruits and they track people who Bonaventure offer and they're big into the signing announcements. That's the off season for me. I'm not really paying as close of attention as I am when it gets to be September, October, and we're really ramping up to get in the college hoop season. But when these guys commit, it's obviously nobody you've ever heard before. A player who didn't have any high major offers, a player who really wasn't recruited that heavily out of high school, but they come and they're superstars. And it's happened that way for a really long time. And yeah, I don't have an explanation for it, but he gets the most out of his players once they get here as well. And you can really see a lot of these guys' games improve. But also, as much as Schmidt gets his players to improve and buy into his system, some of them are just good when they get here. Like Kyle Lofton came in as a freshman and ran the point. He ran point guard from the first game, from their first scrimmage. I remember they scrimmage Alfred University. They had the last few years. I know they used to scrimmage Mansfield before that, but they've been playing Alfred with the Schmidt connection there, and Lofton came out to run the point instead of Nelson Caputo 2 years ago. I'm thinking, who's this guy? What is he doing? Why is he running the point guard? Because Nelson Caputo, who was a guard class of 2019, he'd come in and backed up playing some point guard the year before when Jay Adams or Matt Mobley had been down. And so Lofton came in and really took over that role, and he was ready to go as soon as he got here. I mean, he was a little raw as far as, he's a freshman, his first time playing college hoops, but he was really ready to go, and then that's a testament to Schmidt being able to find these players, not just ones that he has to develop, but ones that are good and that he can get to come here and contribute right away.
So this podcast will air, it's going to air, it's on a Monday with the Dayton game happening on March 1st, and we'll already be done with the George Washington game. Give me a couple of thoughts here on these final couple games of the season. And Jeff, you know me from my I've calmed down a little bit on Twitter, but you know my feeling with the committee, my passion, and how I just don't trust them. I've seen too much go on in the past years. I don't care if there's different guys on the committee. I don't care where they're from. I don't care what conference they represent. I don't care. I've seen it happen. I know what happens to Bonaventure. I know how much extra they have to do to get in the tournament. So I guess take it away with those things right together and kind of bundle them together. George Washington, Dayton, tournament hopes, committee, Bonaventure's chances, where they're at, and all the rankings and all that, because they change every year.
Yeah, well, it starts with winning these next two games. They're both at home.
Have to win them.
They have to. There's no excuse not to. And Bonas is 7-0 at home this year. They've taken care of business. They welcomed George Washington on Friday night in a game where the Colonials really have a couple of good scorers in James Bishop and Jameson Battle, but they don't defend like Bonaventure does. And then on Monday, you play a Dayton team that's really interesting. We know about their run last year. They were number 3 in the country. They were destined to be a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament before everything happened with the pandemic. But they're not the team they were last year. They've won some games in the A-10, but they also have some bad losses. I believe that they are 8-7 in the A-10, but they own losses to St. Joe's and Fordham. And each of those teams have only won 2 A-10 games, so Dayton's a really interesting team, and you need to put them away. So if you're Bonas, you win the next 2, you're the A-10 regular season champions because you have the tiebreaker already against VCU, so you're the number 1 seed in the tournament, and then I think that a semifinal appearance would do it. You only would need to win that first game. Now, obviously, you can never be too sure, but it's really hard to compare this year to previous ones. A lot of people have been talking about comparing this team to 2016 when the snub happened. Bonas was, I believe, 26-8, 26-9. They had some big conference wins, some big non-conference wins. They obviously got bounced in the quarterfinals of the Atlantic 10 tournament that year, and they ended up out of the field in the NCAA tournament. And then 2018, when they got the at-large, it's another year people have been comparing this to, but it's so hard because there's no non-conference schedule for the Bonnies. Now, maybe if they had gotten more non-conference games in, we would be looking at a different situation where it would be more comparable, but their only non-conference games were on neutral court against Akron and then home against Hofstra, which they took care of business in both of those games, but what I'm trying to get at is that their non-conference schedule didn't produce any quad 1 or quad 2 wins. Okay, now they didn't have any bad losses, obviously, with the lack of the non-conference schedule, but it's really hard to say how the committee views a team that did not get to play against teams outside of its own league. Now, like I said, I think that you win these last 2 games, that puts you at 12-3 in the A10, which is really, really good. You're the number 1 seed, the regular season champion. If you get to the semifinals of the tournament, I think you have to be in. I think they're well above the threshold. I get the last 4 in right now, but if you finish this season as the Atlantic 10 regular season champion, or at least tied for a share of it, you've got to think that a semifinal appearance will do it. Yeah,
I hope you're right. I don't trust them. And they were league champions last time that happened too. And when in the RPI, I know that all the rankings are different now, and net and this and that and quad 1 and 2 and all that garbage. But the reality is that RPI used to be the big one, the rating percentage index with the percentages and your record and your opponent's record and the opponent record. And it was all kind of mixed in percentage-wise. And that was sort of trailing out at that point, but it was still a barometer. I mean, the Bonnies were a top 30 RPI team, and they didn't make the tournament. It was absurd. And if you look at this big picture this year, Jeff, and I think you would agree to this, we always talk about the look test in sports. If you watch college basketball, and I know you watch a ton of it, and I watch a bunch of it as well, no one in America can come up to me and tell me the Bonnies aren't one of the top 68 teams in basketball. They can't.
I agree with you. I mean, their net ranking is number 38 right now, and they have been playing really well these last few games. I mean, their only A10 losses have been at St. Louis, at Rhode Island, without Jaron Holmes for the whole first half.
Right.
And or for the rest of the game. For the rest of the game, that was a game where he had an injury. Yes. And then at VCU, which they beat at home. And so sitting at number 38, like I said, you don't have any quad 3 or quad 4 losses. That was a factor that has come into play in the past, whether, the committee put as much weight on those quads or not. Bonas had bad losses, and they don't this year. They don't have any losses outside of quad 1 and quad 2, and that's really going to help them with the committee saying, okay, are we going to put this small market Bonaventure team in, because you and I both know that's a factor, whether they say it or not. Are we going to put little St. Bonaventure in the tournament against these big high major teams? I think that the fact that they don't have any bad losses will play into their favor when the committee is deciding that.
A couple more quick ones for you here, Jeff. Again, at Real J Uveino on Twitter, the editor-in-chief of the Intrepid covering men's basketball at Bonaventure. I just want to kind of get into this year a little bit. I got one for you on that, and then one just in general about Bonaventure and what it's been like for you there, in your time. I really feel for you guys, man. I mean, I know you're staying, focused and headstrong, and you guys are positive, and I'm really proud of all you guys. As you know, being an alum, I think you guys are doing amazing work. But this is hard, isn't it, man? I mean, this is just like such an abnormal deal. I mean, you're not having normal senior stuff. You're not having normal school. This is now what, almost two you could probably say 2 calendar school years here when you include a semester, another semester, next semester. I mean, how has this been? How have you been dealing with this? It cannot be easy.
No, it's really not been the same, and it started with the A10 tournament last year, of course. I had traveled down to Brooklyn last year to cover the Atlantic 10 tournament, and we got in Wednesday night. The Bonnies were supposed to play Thursday. They're playing George Mason, I believe, in that pre-quarterfinal game, and the tournament got canceled right before the tip of the noon game, and so we came back, and then that following weekend was really the last Bonaventure as we know it, and I think everybody knew that weekend of the A-10 tournament, that this was going to be it for a long time, and it went without saying, and you could feel that energy on campus, and, people going out that weekend to just thinking, man, like, this is the last in a while, and it has been, and it's really just been very different. I mean, we have in-person classes, but it's not the same. You're not getting together with all your buddies at the dining hall and lining up a big table.
Right.
It's just, and I live off campus this year as a senior, so that's been a little different. I can just my friends and I can keep to ourselves in our house. But, I mean, it's the social life is very different, and obviously the no basketball games, I think that's really been a bummer for a lot of people, and we saw it coming, I mean, whether we could be in the arena or not, it wouldn't be what it was. That building wouldn't have the sound that it would normally, and, it's okay. We've accepted it. I'm just happy to be back down here still and get to, at least be at Bonaventure for my senior year, because there were times where it was looking bleak that might actually happen, and so I've been thankful to be able to be back, but I think that we just take solace in that as far as from a senior's standpoint, that we can still be here with our friends and we can still be on campus, and, student media can still go cover the games at the Riley Center, even though it's obviously not what it had been before. It's a completely different situation. To be honest with you, I think back sometimes to, like my daily routine.
Isn't it amazing?
In the 5 semesters before COVID, and it's just so different.
Yeah.
But, we're taking what we can get and just trying to enjoy my senior year.
Well, it's a great attitude to take. There's no doubt. Final thing for you, and you can kind of go wherever you want with this, but you're almost done, and it goes so fast. And just wait till after college, then it really speeds up. But going to school, when you go back to your freshman year and you arrive on campus and that first day and the excitement and it's new and it's a big chapter of your life, and then you start covering things and you work in media, and the Riley Center is such a special place, and campus is so close-knit, and we're a cult. Us Bonnet people, we're a cult.
Sure.
Your friends, Allegheny, lunch orders, the RC Cafe, going to Ellicottville, going to Buffalo on the weekends. All of it. Just being a Bonaventure guy. What's it meant to you as you start to put the bow on it? What is this all right now meant to you?
Well, I certainly didn't know what I was getting myself into when I decided to come to school here. That's for sure. I had no Bonaventure connections coming into college. Interestingly enough, my first visit to campus was actually the day after the 2016 snub. That was the first time I'd ever been at St. Bonaventure. Didn't know anything about it. I talked to somebody at a college fair at my high school and decided to come down to visit. So it's the day after the snub. Obviously gloomy. Everybody's down in the dumps about the snub. And my dad saying, man, why is everybody telling us about basketball? We want to see the journalism school. Because everybody would talk to, we'd say, man, they'd say they left us out of the tournament, and now, knowing what I know now, that was a really crappy day for a lot of Bonnet people. But I didn't know the slightest. And then coming here freshman year, I mean, I obviously fell in love with Bonaventure, with the campus, with the area, like so many people do. I'm from a small town in upstate New York. I'm from Perry, New York. So this area, it feels like home to me, I think, more so than a lot of my friends who are from the suburbs or, from Buffalo or Rochester or wherever than they do. It really does feel like home, and it feels like, the dynamic of campus and the tight-knit community, and, a lot of people, and people outside of Bonaventure just don't understand that, but it's meant so much to me, just the way that I've been able to develop professionally, I guess, over these last 4 years. I mean, I didn't have any journalism experience coming into here at all. And I mean, I sit in my room/office right now, and I look at the media passes that I've acquired over the last 2 years covering the team, and I'm really very thankful. And I'm really blessed that St. Bonaventure has given me those opportunities to do that, because how often can you, as a sophomore, cover stuff like that? I was in the Riley Center covering games as a freshman, and I've covered the last 2 Atlantic 10 tournaments. I plan on covering the one next week as well, this week, when this airs on Monday. And those opportunities are really just tremendous, and it's the people at Bonaventure, and there's a reason why the alums all feel like that. And I'm sure that 20, 30, however many years from now, I'm going to be the same, alum that's into Bona basketball just as much as everybody else is. And it's really a special thing, and it's hard to kind of articulate that to people who didn't go to school here. And I'm sure we all sound crazy, and I'm sure that's why the word cult is thrown around, and people tell me that all the time. But I really couldn't have asked for anything more, despite COVID, despite everything. COVID has taken away a lot of the gatherings and a lot of the events that we did in the past, but it didn't take away the people. It didn't take away the people at Bonaventure who make it special, and I found joy in that, and the fact that we've gotten to be here for my last year and a lot of people's last year, but it's been awesome. It's been awesome, obviously, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yeah, I used to go up, and when you're in school, you don't necessarily capture enough moments, right? Because you're young and you're just kind of going through it. You're doing it. You're in school, and it blows by. But a couple times I did, and I probably should have done it more. And I always tell people when they're in school, hey, have those moments. Go do some special things. Look out at places. Go to the golf course and look at campus just for 5 minutes and just take it. Put that memory, put that in your head. Go to the Riley Center after a huge win and sit up in the Reds by yourself and just look out. Like get those images in your head, because it's a special place, man. It really is.
Yeah, I've been having those moments this semester, definitely. Like, man, because everything that I do is my last time doing it. And, like you said, we haven't been having the normal senior activities. Like, we didn't have a 100-day celebration or anything. We're not going to have 50 days or whatever going forward. But still, just being able to be on campus, and like I said, being here with my friends and just able to work and go to class, cover the team, and be with everybody. It's been good. It's been good. It's been different, but good. And we couldn't ask for too much, but I'm happy that we've been able to bend down here. And I guess that in a couple months I'm going to be a Bona alum, presumably. And, yeah, I guess that puts me in a pretty cool category as well.
There you go. Jeff Uveino just does a great job covering the men's basketball team at St. Bonaventure. Editor-in-chief of the Intrepid, the Bona Hoops Insider, and getting ready to head on out of St. Bonaventure here pretty soon. Jeff, this was incredible. Thanks for coming on. Really, really great job. And by the way, you got to go follow Jeff, and then you can catch his website there as well, right on the Twitter handle. Look, enjoy the next couple games. Enjoy the tournament. Hopefully enjoy the tournament after that, and we'll talk soon. And of course, I hope anything you ever need, I'm a phone call away.
Yeah, I know that, of course, Mike, and thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for your willingness to always help Bona students, and I appreciate you as always.